Today, we saw Bitcoin rise even further. We've been seeing Bitcoin rising for the last couple days, and I think that this time is a bit different than the last couple rises that we've seen over the past several months. This one's a little bit worrisome. I'm gonna cover that. But the dollar is down, or the DXY is down 11% since Trump became president. And I don't care about presidents, whatever. I just say Trump because he's in office right now. But the Federal Reserve is running the show here. And then the dollar index went to around 97 something, which is very low. If you're a US citizen, I'd be worried about that if you are not in an inflation hedge like Bitcoin, real estate, gold, whatever. Now, the Dow has dropped 1,000 points in 11 times in history, and 4 of those have been since Liberation Day. That's really interesting because you don't want that much volatility, especially in something that's supposed to be stable. And keep in mind, you have the stock market has a lot of people's retirement funds in them. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of people that don't understand money that rely on this, and it's just getting zigzagged all over the place. That isn't very healthy, okay? Now, China is cutting off new investment in US private equity. This is from Street Insider. Also, China warned countries not to make trade deals with the US that harm Beijing, vowing to respond with countermeasures if necessary. I think a lot of countries, I know a lot of countries right now, are adhering to that. I'm actually going to make another video in a couple days that kind of backs that up. This is really not good news, okay, guys? Now, here's Ben Rickard. He's the guy from The Big Short. Great. I really enjoy following him on Twitter. He says, the hard truth is the evidence all around us that we have a debt crisis, a credit crisis, and a liquidity crisis, currency crisis, and a world moving away from the US dollar and the US Treasury. There will be no pullback in gold, not for a while. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a pullback in gold or whatever. Now, gold in terms of Bitcoin is down 99.99%. So I'm not jumping on the gold bandwagon just yet. It hasn't even doubled since 2011, but it is something to watch out for, especially if you are in stable coins. Now, I'm getting way ahead of myself because I have another video to show you maybe stable coins could be a bit dangerous if they're USD denominated, okay? Now, let's go over to this. Bitcoin has now recovered the full price dip from Trump's tariff announcement. This is interesting because people are now fleeing to gold and Bitcoin. Now, the thing here is, this is exciting here because gold does not have a blockchain. We have no idea how much gold people have out there. We have no idea what nations are really buying. I mean, when I hear things on Zero Hedge or like some other crypto newsletter or whatever, they're saying, oh yeah, gold is being bought by this nation. This is how many tons that they're buying. Bullcrap. Do you really trust central banks? Do you really trust any of these governments? No, of course not. So what can you take from this? Okay, the thing that you can take from this is that gold is heavily manipulated. Now, I saw on Peter Brandt's tweet the other day, he's making fun of the silver people because the silver people, they get excited that it's destiny that silver is rising in price, and when the price drops, it's manipulation. He was kind of making fun of these people, but Peter Brandt doesn't do much research in what actually happens around the world when it comes to silver and gold manipulation. And don't worry, I got Bitcoin in a second. You're gonna hear this first. Gold and silver are heavily manipulated. All you have to do, just do a little tiny search and search in JP Morgan silver gold manipulation or any other bank, and you're gonna see a plethora of of fines that they've gotten, little slaps on their wrist. By the way, they're not full fines because everybody's in on this game, okay? It's all manipulated. But what Bitcoin has that gold and silver does not have, I mean, so many properties. You can see it on a blockchain. You can go for yourself. 21 million, that's all that's ever going to exist. Whereas gold and silver probably have 1,000 to 10,000, maybe even 20 or 30,000 paper ounces to 1 gold or silver ounce. That's how freaking manipulated that thing is. Okay, so that's why I'm not worried about Bitcoin being as manipulated as gold. That's why I'm thinking we're not going to see a pullback with what we saw back in gold with Bitcoin. And now gold back in 2011 was $1,900 an ounce because it was because it's been so manipulated, and that goes with silver too. Silver is at $50 an ounce. They haven't even doubled since 2011. Now, here's the thing. Now, this is a lot of fun. So you guys are all interested in alts, right? Well, the Bitcoin dominance as well, because Bitcoin is looking like it's a hedge against world craziness, is now at 64.57. So the higher that goes, the typical number for when alt season starts is around 71. And now we are at 64.57. So the higher that number goes, the closer we are to alt season, in my opinion. And do I think there's still going to be an alt season? Of course, people are greedy. They're gonna want to gamble on alts once more. Even though they lost their butts in memes, they're gonna lose their butts once again in altcoins. And we're gonna sell those altcoins. So if you want to see what we have, check out learningcrypto.com when we're buying, because we've been buying actually recently, and when we are going to be selling because we sold near the top of where Bitcoin was recently. Okay, 100 to 105,000. We almost got $110,000. That's where my order was, and it almost reached it by like a couple $100, whatever. So with that said, let me know what your thoughts are below. How crazy is this going to get these tariffs? Because keep in mind that you may think, okay, this is great for this country or that country. No, this kind of screws everything up around the world. You know, like a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs. You might be excited because it's like, oh yeah, stick it to that person or stick it to that country. That's not right, man. Like there's people that are really going to be suffering. Small businesses that need to pay payrolls and that provides sustainability for families and stuff. They're not going to be able to do that anymore, and they're going to have to close shop. Just as we saw back in 2020, 2021, when governments literally shut down people's businesses, and many of those businesses haven't opened since then. Governments always screw things up. That's why I always say the free market is so much better than government can ever do. And I think deep down, you agree with me. All right, talk to you soon.